The American dream quietly turned into a financial nightmare. Your parents built wealth through houses, but in 2026, the same decision could trap you in debt for decades. Everyone says rent is a waste of money, but no one tells you how mortgages, taxes, and maintenance silently drain you even faster. I compared a $400,000 home vs renting and investing. The difference. And the result? It's not even close. By the end of this video, you'll see why smart investors are choosing to rent, and why most people are walking straight into a financial trap. But to understand why this trap is so dangerous, you need to see it in action. Take Mark, for example. He's 32, living in Austin, and he finally saved up $60,000. For years, he's heard the same advice. Stop paying your landlord's mortgage and start building your own equity. So, Mark buys that $400,000 home I just mentioned. On paper, he's a success, but 2 months later, the adrenaline has worn off. Mark isn't celebrating. He's realizing that the safest investment in history feels more like a financial noose. The first mistake Mark made, and the mistake millions of Americans are making right now, is looking only at the mortgage payment. And this is where most people get trapped. But in 2026, the mortgage is just the entry fee. Let's break down the math that the realtor didn't put in the brochure. First, there's the property tax explosion. In states like Texas, Florida, and New Jersey, taxes have decoupled from reality. Because home values spiked, the city's tax assessment followed. Mark's affordable mortgage is $2,800, but his tax bill adds another $700 a month. Then comes the insurance crisis. With climate risks and inflation hitting construction costs, homeowners' insurance premiums have jumped 40% in 2 years. Mark is now paying $4,000 a month just to keep the lights on. But here's the kicker: maintenance. There's an old saying in finance: rent is the maximum you'll pay for housing, but a mortgage is the minimum. When Mark's HVAC system dies in the middle of a July heatwave, there's no landlord to call. That's a $7,000 emergency. When you add it all up, Mark is paying 50% more than his previous rent, yet his lifestyle has actually downgraded because he has zero disposable income left. Wait, you might say, but he's building equity. Is he? Let's look at the amortization schedule. In the first 10 years of a 30-year mortgage at 7% interest, almost every penny Mark pays goes to the bank's profit, not his principal. He's not an owner, he's a glorified caretaker for the bank's asset. While Mark is struggling to pay for a new roof, let's look at his sister, Sarah. Sarah is a perpetual renter. Her family thinks she's failing. They tell her she's throwing money away. But Sarah understands a concept that Mark ignored: opportunity cost. Sarah took that same $60,000, the money Mark used for a down payment, and she didn't give it to a seller. She put it into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Every month, while Mark is paying $700 in property taxes, money that is truly thrown away, Sarah is taking that same $700 and adding it to her investment portfolio. If you're still watching, this part is going to hurt if you just bought a house, because this is where most people realize they made a mistake. Over a 10-year period, Mark's wealth is tied up in a physical building. He can't eat his kitchen cabinets. He can't pay for a medical emergency with his backyard. His wealth is illiquid. If the neighborhood goes downhill or a major employer leaves town, Mark is stuck. He can't move for a better job because he can't afford the 6% realtor commission to sell his house. Sarah, on the other hand, is liquid. Her money is compounding at an average of 10% a year. In a decade, Sarah's brokerage account will likely be worth more than Mark's entire home equity, even after accounting for her rent increases. She has the freedom to move to a new city for a 20% raises. She has the freedom to take risks. Mark is anchored to a zip code by a debt he can't escape. In the 2026 economy, liquidity is king and equity is a cage. Now, we have to ask the big question: if the math is this bad for the average family, why are home prices still at record highs? This is where the story takes a dark turn. This is the part the evening news won't tell you. The housing market in 2026 isn't being driven by people looking for a place to raise kids. It's being driven by institutional capital. Private equity firms and hedge funds have realized something brilliant and terrifying. If they buy up the supply of starter homes, they can force a whole generation into a rentership society. They don't mind overpaying for a house because they aren't looking for a home, they are looking for a yield. By keeping prices high, they ensure that you have to take on massive debt to compete. This system benefits large institutions more than individuals. High-interest mortgages generate consistent profits for banks. They are effectively financializing your need for shelter. The American dream has been repackaged as a subscription service where you pay for 30 years, and the terms and conditions, taxes, taxes, insurance, and interest can change at any time. Think about it. If you are house poor, you are the perfect worker. You can't quit a toxic job because you're one missed payment away from foreclosure. You can't start a business because your capital is buried in your front lawn. The institutional takeover of housing isn't just about money, it's about control. They've turned the middle class into a deck of cards, and the mortgage is the glue holding it together. So, does this mean you should never buy a house? Is home ownership officially dead? Not necessarily, but the intent has to change. You must stop treating a home as an investment and start treating it for what it actually is, a luxury consumption item. In 2026, the real winners aren't the people with the biggest houses. They are the immobile wealth builders. These are people who follow 3 new rules. Rule number 1, rent where you live, but own what pays you. It is often mathematically smarter to rent a nice apartment and use your extra cash to buy a cash-flowing business or a REIT, real estate investment trust, where someone else handles the toilets and the taxes. Rule number 2, the 25% rule. Never, under any circumstances, let your total housing cost, including taxes and insurance, exceed 25% of your take-home pay. If you can't afford a house under those terms in 2026, the market is telling you to wait. Don't argue with the math. The math doesn't have emotions. Rule number 3, focus on career equity over home equity. In a world where AI and remote work are changing everything, your ability to move and adapt is your greatest financial asset. A house is a stationary target in a fast-moving world. Your parents built wealth through houses because they lived in a different world. They had 3% interest rates, low property taxes, and a stable corporate ladder. You are playing a different game, and if you use their playbook, you will lose. Mark eventually realized this. He sold his house 3 years later. After realtor fees and closing costs, he barely broke even. He felt like he had wasted 3 years of his life. Today, he rents a modest place, but his investment account is growing every month. He's finally breathing again. Your home should be a place where you make memories, not a place where you bury your financial future. Don't let a white picket fence become the bars of your cage. Before you sign that 30-year contract, ask yourself, am I buying a home or am I buying a trap? If this video made you rethink your strategy, hit the like button. It helps us fight the algorithm that wants to keep these truths hidden. Build wealth first, buy the house later, because in 2026, freedom is the only currency that matters. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.